wanted to do today was I tried to do this analysis with what we call Route 2A and 4A, and incorporate that into a recalculation of the tonnage. So what I'm going to do is we'll start with, where did we go? Okay, the first screen I'm going to share is, all right, if you can see that, that's the spreadsheet. Now, admittedly, we were able to do more days with 2A and 4A as opposed to 4A due to staffing. So these are the days, just to remind you, 2A is west of the Boston Post Road. So that basically runs from, let's say, Acura on Harrison and Palmer, all the way out to Sherwood, let's say Winans, just to give us better landmarks. And so Route 2A East is everything on the east side of the Boston Post Road. So that's the all of Dillon Road, including the apartment, Parkland, Edgewater, Dogwood, a portion of Wildwood Circle, Pheasant Run, all of those streets that are listed. Route 4A is the section of the village of Larchmont that's picked up by Town Route 4A. Town Route 4, rather, excuse me. That's Virginia Place, Devon Road, Highwood Way, and Hall Avenue. And so all of Route 2A accounts for about 154 collection points, and Virginia Place and Route 4A is about 38 collection points. We did it with a map, and I actually sent you all the locations previously. So again, with the staffing, we were able to do almost 2 weeks of Route 2A. We were only able to do 1 week of Route 4A. Of course, I could do it again this week, I believe. I'm trying to remember what the 4A collection dates are. I could do another week. I'm not sure these numbers are going to change dramatically, but this gives you a layout of what it looks like on either. We had to do either side of the Boston Post Road because those days, those routes are collected on different days. So that's why we had to split it up into east and west. Okay, let me then go to.
What are your numbers down at the bottom, Steve?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. So how to address this tonnage? So what I did was, if you look at the average tonnage per collection, it's about 1.6 tons. If I average out the 7 points, and then what I did was we collect each collection point about 104 times a year. So I took the 1.6, multiplied it by the 104 collections, and I got 166.4 tons. I used the exact same analysis. I averaged, again, I'm only averaging 2 numbers, so it's a little skewed, and I end up with 0.37 tons on an average collection. Then you extend it out, and I get to 38.5 tons, okay, for an annual collection. Okay, all right, so then what I want to do is I want to share this. Okay, so what did I do? This was the total tonnage of garbage collected in 2020, 7,000.
We don't see this. We don't see your screen.
All right, hold on. Maybe I got to cut one off. Hold it. I probably have to shut one down. Hold on. You see it now?
No.
No?
Nope.
All right, hold on. How about now?
Yes.
Okay, so here's what I did. I took the total garbage collected for 2020, that's all 12 months, 7,679 tons. Going to the original allocation system, this is how it allocated. Okay, it would have been 55-45. This is without Route 2A and 4A. So then as I used the tonnage from the prior share, I then recalculated the tonnage. I took the original calculation, this is Larchmont now, deducted the 166.4 tons, back Route 4A, and I got a final adjusted tonnage of what you see, 3,336.1 or 43.4. Same thing with the town of Mamaroneck, except I added Route 2A and deducted Route 4A, and got that final adjusted tonnage of 4,342, and it's 56.5%.
Steve, can I share my calculation?
Sure.
Because it's, so you need to stop sharing.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay. Hold on a second. I just need to make sure I get the right page up. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, so same numbers. You're right that we ran, the commission ran 2A for almost 2 weeks and 4A for only 1 week. So if we just look at the 1 week that got run, these are the numbers that were collected in 2A, west and east. These are the numbers that were collected in 4A. This was the total tonnage for each of those days of the week. So the bottom line is the total collected for the week, the total collected in 2A West, total collected in 2A East. That's the gross village excess. In other words, the total of those two. 4A for the week. The net is 4A subtracted from 2A. So the net village excess is 5.35. And that comes out to 3.81% of the total trash collected that week by the commission. If we wanted to look at all the information that was collected, the 2 weeks, you have to weight the Route 4A to normalize for the extra data points in 2A. So basically, it's the same calculation done out here, except for the fact that we've got the weights in 4A multiplied by 1.75, because it should have been a 2-to-1 ratio, but it was 7-to-2 ratio. And you get, so it's the difference between 3.8 and 3.7% is the excess for the village. If I were to annualize, I could take the tonnage difference and multiply by 52 for the week and multiply by 52 weeks in a year. I would get about 278 tons as the overage. So obviously there's a bit of a discrepancy in the methodologies used here, and certainly a large discrepancy in the number that results from that calculation. So we're going to have to work through why that would be.
I mean, actual collection is always going to be the
I
right
think
number.
it might have something to do, well, okay, let's,
These are real tonnages. These are tickets.
these are real tonnages, right? So I've used real tonnages. I've used the data for the week. If you look at what that would come out to as a percentage of the tonnage, it's a higher number than what you've calculated. Can you just, I'm going to stop sharing for a second. If you would put your screen back up.
Okay. This one, Lorraine? Or the other one?
No, this one's fine to start. So we're starting with the same exact numbers. The approach I took was the approach that's laid out in that 1989 memo, which is you look at the week, you calculate a percentage, and then you can either annualize it from there, or you can just apply that percentage. Either way, it works out pretty much the same. I've done both sets of calculations. There's something here that's not quite right. So hang on a second. I'm sorry, but I gotta check your numbers live.
It would seem to me if we're using the same numbers and one's being extrapolated out for a year.
But I think there's something that's not quite right about the calculation at the bottom, the approach there. I don't even think that how did you get, Steve?
Go ahead, I'm listening.
Can you please, since you have it live, can you just do a sum at the bottom of all these columns, please?
Okay. Come on. Whoop. Oh, come on.
I think the problem is that you've given both routes the same number of collections. So which can't be possible.
Well, on an annual basis, it would be. All of these collection points will get collected twice a week, 52 weeks a year. I mean, I didn't deduct the holidays. There are 9 holidays. I didn't deduct the 9 holidays. I assumed 52 weeks as opposed to 95 collections.
Well,
I'm going to receive the same number of collections, Lorraine. Whether I use 95 or 104.
just calculate then, Steve, what is the net difference between 2A and 4A? Why don't we just work with the net?
On an average or total tonnage?
You'd start with the total. So the net, see, the problem here is, okay, we can't do it that way on this sheet because you've got too many data points in 2A.
Right, and I knew that was going to be a problem. I just could not get Route 4A. I couldn't get 2 weeks worth of data for 4A. I mean, I can go back and do it, I mean, the numbers, I don't think are going to change dramatically, but that's
Not
why I
gonna change
broke it
dramatically.
down.
That's why I did the weighted calculation, which just, weights 4A for as if we had another week's worth of data that was relatively similar.
Same.
And I also just did 1 week, and it came up with, within 0.1% in both calculations. All right, go to your next page so I can I got to think through this because you've
All right, let me go back.
stymied me here.
Oh, that was not my intent.
Somewhere there's an issue here.
That's not my intent.
Well, so it looks to me like in this, when you have the original allocation for each the town and the village, you're taking a number that already had taken out Route 2A and Route 4A. And
No.
taking it out again, it looks like.
No, that's why, remember, at the end, I've still got to come up with 7,679 tons.
Right.
You're just reallocating it.
Right.
Yeah,
My issue is that once you get to this point and you do this calculation, your percentage for the village is twice what my percentage for the village. I mean, the change is half. Your change is half of mine. It's not a good way to phrase it. There's a problem here with the calculation. I just can't figure out where we diverged.
Well, it depends on how you decided. If you decided that the average, I mean, I used what the average, if I took the average collection for the route over the 52 weeks or 104 collections, I think that's where we're diverging.
Yeah, but it should work out the same. I think it's in the application. It's in your final analysis. Because again, if I went back and showed you my sheet, you'd see that I took the total tonnage collected that week for the commission. I took the tonnage collected for 2A for the week, 4A for the week, netted it out, took that as a percent of the total, and it's 3.8%. That pretty much means that for 2020, the village's percentage should have gone from 45 to 41.2.
All right, hold on. Let me.
I think that Route,
Because the amount of trash, the difference in the amount of trash picked up in 2A is not a little over 1% of the commission's trash. It's just not. That's where I think the problem is. And since this is the first time I'm seeing your method, it's not jumping out at me right now.
so hold on, Lorraine. I
Yeah.
think for Steve's method, the total tonnage collected, 7679, we have to then take out Route 2A and 4A from that, not from the allocation, and then reallocate, and then add it back. Because it's taken out twice here. We're the top part of this page.
No, I assume he's wrong at the top where he says without.
Yeah, that's what I'm
wrong? No.
That's
no, wrong. No.
That's
The top, think of the top as the way we've always calculated it. We took.
no, but without means it's not included in the calculation. But you meant without
no.
considering this issue.
All right, without may be the wrong term. What it
Oh,
is,
okay.
and I can reword this. The 3,464 tons for the village of Larchmont includes Route 2A.
Okay.
And the town of Amerenik includes Route 4A. So I
Okay.
see where my.
Okay, that's how I was seeing it. Wrong. That's where it confused me. Okay.
The only issue here, Steve, this is where I'm getting at. There's a problem with the way there's a problem with me being able to see why we came up with such a big difference. If you look at the total weight collected for just the week on Route 2A, it's 6.09 tons. That's a week. You multiply that by 52 weeks in a year, you get 316 tons. You're only giving us credit for 166 tons. There's a problem there.
Hold on.
That's why I said the number of collections is the issue, because you're crediting us for half of our tonnage. Because 2A West and 2A East are each a route. So each one of them gets, it's just not working right. Let's look at a different way.
All right, hold on. Just talking about
Maybe we should start from the.
Why don't we just start from the base data and work our way through it? We'll just talk our way through it.
Hold on.
So I can put my spreadsheet up and we can because we all agree that we started with the same base data. Yeah, your numbers for the town, your number's spot on, 38.5. If I take the total tonnage for the week multiplied by 52 weeks a year, I get 38.48 tons. But for the village, you've cut me in half.
All right, wait a minute. That's the 38.5 though is an average, Lorraine.
Listen, Steve, you've cut me in half. Can you stop sharing your page? I'll put mine back up and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about.
All right, hold on. Okay.
Okay, thanks. All right, let's just look over here at the 1 week's worth of data, because it gets more confusing when you have an odd number of collection points. This is 1 full week. The gross VOL is 609. If I took, okay. Ooh. If I take that number, that's our 1 week total for Route 2A. Do we all agree on that?
1 week, it's the average of the two.
Okay, now look, it's 1 week total. So 2A is really 2 routes. It's 2A and 2, I don't know,
Right.
2A and 2B. It's 2 routes. So this was the total for 2A and this was the total for 2B, lack of a better, right? That's a total for Route 2A.
For
the week. So if I multiply that by 52 weeks in a year, I get 316 tons. Likewise, Route 4A, that's a full week. If I take that and I multiply it by 52 weeks in a year, I get that. And that's the number that you used, Steve, for the town. But the village number you used is half what it should be. Okay. And you know why? Because here's why. Because you took an average of 7 days and made it equal to a week. You took an average of almost 2 weeks of garbage, of village trash, and you made it equal to 1 week by multiplying it by 104. That's the mistake, because you used all the data. So you basically discounted.
Well, you had to average, I mean, the 2 weeks,
Steve,
go ahead.
mathematically, nope. Take a look. You took these 7 data points, which is 2 weeks of trash. And you pretended it was 1 week of trash, and you gave us an average, and then you worked it out that way. So you have to work with the 1 week.
But wouldn't averaging 2 weeks out as 1 week be the same thing as you?
No, only if you then acknowledge that it's 2 weeks worth of data by multiplying it by 208 collection points, because it's 2 weeks worth of trash. It has to be multiplied by the number of collections, not that you would have in, yeah. I don't know if I'm explaining this correctly, but I mean, well enough. Obviously, there's still confusion. I mean, if you just look at the 1 week, you can see what the problem is. You've halved our tonnage. And that's why that second sheet you put up with the first sheet rather, with the 104 collection points, immediately jumped out at me. And now I understand why that is, because this information here is, because you lumped it together, you halved its impact. I mean, just look at the 1 week. That's why the 2 weeks is difficult, because we didn't actually do 2 weeks.
It is 2 different routes, so could we use them separately? Look at them separately?
Well,
What difference does that make? What do you mean?
I don't know.
I don't know what you mean by that. Use them.
But they each have 2 weeks in there.
No, look, they don't actually. Two.
Yeah, they do.
2A, 1, 2.
3, 4.
Yeah, but then 2A East only had 3 pickups.
Right, right,
We start on a Monday, right? Honestly, the easiest thing to do would be to just ignore that first week, or use the weighted numbers, because that corrects for the fact that we didn't pick up trash on 4A the week before, which is what I did here. I mean, again, if we did that, then so if we say that's 2 weeks, but it's, so that would be what, 26 weeks?
if you halved it,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
yeah, I mean,
It's not quite right, because it's not really a full 2 weeks either. It's a day short, but you can see that we still have the same ratio. You see? The amount of trash picked up by the village on Route 2 is way more. There's no way you can end up at the end and have a difference of 100, like 100, what's your difference? 130 tons? When right here, look at the difference. You're talking 5 tons a week difference. Yeah, 5 tons a week difference is a 260 ton
Year.
difference. Yeah, per year, right? Which is where this comes in. So then let's look. The net change is 278 calculated this way, just from that 1 week. That would be the the annual net difference.
Lorraine, you're way better at seeing the math than I am. I'm following you, but
Do you want me to roll through? We roll through it again? I mean, we just have to. We all have to get to the point where we're at least agreeing on the numbers, right? The calculation, because the next step's going to be, you know, where the rubber meets the road.
So what about
Basically,
using?
you know, when in Steve's calculation, he took 1 week of Route 4 and multiplied it by 104 collections to annualize it, and that was absolutely correct. But then he took almost 2 weeks of village tonnage, averaged it, and then annualized it when it was really 2 weeks of tonnage. It should have been multiplied by twice as many collection points. That's the issue. So these calculations are 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, are
So say that again, though. We took
correct
1 week of
methodology.
Route 4. We
I'm
took
sorry.
1 week of Route 4,
Yeah, we have 1 week of Route 4.
and that was averaged, I mean, and that was multiplied by 52 weeks, basically.
Yeah, either the way Steve did it or the way I do it, you come up with the same number. So, you know, the week 4, the 1 week of 4A, you had 0.74 total tonnage.
Yeah.
If you you multiply that by 104 collection days, or you multiply it by 52 weeks,
52 weeks,
you come
right.
up within 0.2 of the same, 0.2 tons of the same number.
Got it, right.
And I don't know, Steve may have rounded, so it might be exactly the same number. You have to use the same approach to the village pickup, to 2A. You take that week of 2A, which is 5 tons higher than a week of 4A.
Where is that? Show me where it's 5 tons higher than.
Right there. So that's a week of 2A is 6.09
I'm saying,
tons.
right. Okay, you're saying 6.09 minus.
Minus 0.74, right?
Right.
I mean, I didn't do the math. It's
Yeah.
you know, just whatever.
Okay.
So you take that same, now you take the week of the village excess, you either multiply it by 104 collection points, or you multiply it by 52 weeks of the year, and you're going to get the same number. I mean, I'll do it using Steve's method, which is 104 collection points. We have to find an average first, right, Steve?
Yes, your average, well, depends what average you want to use now. So if you,
Well, it would be the average of that week, but, you know, 6.09, right? Divided by 4. So there's my average. So now I take my average and I multiply it by 104 collection points. Oh, I see.
you got one.
That's the problem. Yeah, you can't do that.
What?
What do you mean?
Oh, no, that's not my average. Wait, yeah, is it? Yeah.
The average is 1.52.
Yeah, why are we taking, but that's not the average of, that's the problem. You're treating these as
1.
one. You have to take the average of 2A West, then and calculate it, the average of 2A East and calculate it, the average of 4A, calculate it. And that's your total, and that's why you were twice off. That's it.
So let's do that calculation right now.
Let's do that. So here we go. All right, so that's that divided by 2, the average of that week. Here divided by 2, that's the average of that week. If I then take that and I multiply it by 104, I get that. And if I take that and I multiply it by 104, I get that. And if I add those two numbers, I get that. There you go. Voila. We all pass. We all pass 12th grade math. I hate this. You know, when class, when they told you, your teacher told you someday you're going to need to use this.
You use it quite much.
Okay, so I just want to,
Go ahead.
I just wanted to go through it again. So
Yep.
the average of 2A West, the average of 2A East, added
Those two. Yeah.
and multiplied by 104.
Yep. This is the average of 2A West multiplied by 104. This is 2A East multiplied by 104. And this is those two numbers added together.
Okay.
Which is the same as if I take my total and multiply it by 52 weeks in the year.
Or, right, or added those two times 104.
Yeah, right. Those are, these two numbers are the same, but they're a different calculation.
Right.
One is 6.09 times 52.
Yeah,
And the other one is the sum of these two numbers, which are each the average of that route multiplied by 104 collections a year.
Right.
All right, but you cut out a week on the collection. You cut out data points.
Now, this is a full week on here. This is Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. 4 days for 2A and 2 days for 4A. I cut out that partial week for 2A because it makes things more complicated. We can figure that out. We could do that too. We'll do it over here.
You've got 1 week of 2A East, 1 week of 2A West.
You don't have a full week of 2A East.
Yes, I do.
I'm sorry, you don't have a full 2 weeks of two. You have 2 weeks of 2A West.
Right here, right. Look at the one I'm working on. That's 1 week. I have a full week of 2A West and a full week of 2A East. I have a full week, January 11 through January 15.
Right.
Right.
That's the same week for 4A.
And the same week for 4A, right. I mean, we can look at this side, which is 2 weeks, which is the full, that's all this is all the data we have. We could do the same calculation. I can do, here's 2A West,
Average.
and that was 4. So that's the average. And then I can do this, and that was 3 data points.
Yeah.
Right? And then I can do, all right, I think it's going to work, 104 collection points. And 104 collection points. And then if I add those two together, I get an even bigger number. Do you want me to do it that way? It's because it's the 104 is, you know, you when you work in partial weeks, you have to weight it. I'd have to like put another data point in this. I would need Monday to put in 2A East so that these you know, it balanced out better. I don't know.
And is 104 is the accurate number for the number of collection time?
I mean, you could argue there are 9 days a year we don't pick up garbage. I didn't think that was completely relevant. If you do it, so it would be 95 collections versus 104, but I didn't, you know, I did not. It's
going to change each side proportionally, I suppose.
Right.
You could really dig into it because every year the holidays are different days of the week. So it's better to just work with the same, you know, one number. 104, it's 2 pickups a week, 52 weeks in a year.
Right.
Yeah, you either use 104 or you use 52. It's the same,
Right, right, right.
it's the same thing, right?
So it turns into,
That's not, there's an issue there because of the 104 and the number of data points. But anyway, it's cleaner to look at 1 week's worth of data because we're annualizing.
so that it comes out though to 316 versus 30.
38.5, yeah. And we can double check that. Again, we can do the
My
difference.
understanding is how it was right on the money for 4A, but so far off on 2A.
Because you only counted 2A as if it were, you discounted the fact that 2A is actually 2 routes.
Well, no, I
But
didn't.
it picks up, yeah, you did, because it's 2 routes. It picks up 4 times a week. It's 2 routes. You averaged 2 routes and made it one week's worth of route data and then multiplied that by 104. If you want to take that average and multiply it by 208, then you'd get back to where we are, which is correct. I mean, let's just look on the face of it. Like the proof is right here that there's a problem with your calculation. If in a week, Route 2A collected 6 tons of trash, and in that same week, Route 4 collected less than 1 ton, there's a difference of 5 tons a week. That's way more than the difference your calculation showed. I would hazard to say it's twice more than what your calculation showed. Or you could also work your calculation backwards. If you take your annual tonnage for Route 2A, you're going to end up with half of what was actually collected. Is the sticking point, Steve, that you haven't been, that you
With that tonnage, I don't see how you get back to 7,679. If my number on 4A is right.
With what tonnage?
Well, it's got to, at the end of the day, it's got to come up to 7,679.
No. Now you're way off because this is a calculation that was done in a week in January 2021, and you're looking at the annual tonnage of 2020. We're going to calculate a percentage, and we're going to correct that tonnage by percentage. We can't calculate out this weight onto that, and it's not going to work. I mean. We're annualizing this, but on a, yeah, go ahead.
I'm just saying, okay, you want to say it's a new year. I get it. The years don't tend to differ that much. It would be interesting to see if I then take it all the way out to see where I get.
My objection is with the fact that you seem to think that somehow this isn't going to add up. It adds up because we calculated out what that was as a percentage of the week collected. Just apply that percentage as excess and you come up with what is the new allocation, which I can show you that on the next sheet. If you, it's like, the total collected in 2020 isn't going to change because we're changing how much of it belongs to the town and how much belongs to the village. This calculation here was done specifically to figure out what is a percentage overage or net overage to be used to correct the allocation. now I'm really, now you're confusing me a little bit more as to,
Okay, if I take- Where, the sum of the tons came off our tickets. Where'd you get the sum of the tons?
yeah, the tickets
For 21?
for those days. Correct.
Well, then that says that we're going to come in 300 tons shy at the end of the year, which I guess is conceivable. But it seems,
Well, no, net, it's a little less.
no, if I take your 140.45
Yeah,
and extrapolate it over 52 weeks, I get 7,303 tons.
yeah.
I mean, we've had reductions. We've never had a reduction that big. That's a huge reduction. Which I guess,
That probably doesn't include Maxwell Avenue, because this is just village and town tonnage.
oh, right, you're right, yep, you're right, that's right, that doesn't.
So maybe that makes up the difference in what now I understand what you're saying, that you don't think this would get us to a normal level for the year.
Okay, you're right.
Yeah.
That's right, it does not include the tonnage out of Maxwell.
Right.
And can you remind me again where 2A, East and West, and 4A are captured in the current routes?
What do you mean capture? Well, if you looked at all of the tonnage in month's Route 2, 2A West and 2A East are now incorporated into that tonnage. If you look at all of the tonnage for Route 4, which is primarily a town route, the 4A tonnage is incorporated in there.
Okay, and so Route 2 is 2A West and 2A East.
Yeah, I just had to do it that way because they were different.
Okay.
Today, so I
just wanted to remember how it was looked at now, how it was, the routes were allocated now. Lorraine, were you a math major?
No, I was a geology major, but I did have to take calculus. Physics.
Okay, I see it.
Okay. All right.
All right, so then do we need to, I don't know if we need to sit with these numbers for a minute or two, or can we move forward? Because I know for me, it'd probably be good to, review them again, just to really understand. I understand how we got there right now,
Mm-hmm.
but in putting it in the overall scheme of the entire commission, how it all fits in. Or can we do that now? I don't know, Steve, do you feel comfortable sitting with these numbers right now?
Well, if Lorraine can send this to me, I see, I understand the formula now. I mean, it's hard to do when I'm looking at a screen and looking at my calculator. So, if you could send that to me, Lorraine, I'd appreciate it. And then I'll play around with it a little more. But I understand her concept, and I understand how she's getting the higher tonnage, and I understand the methodology. It's a decision about how we calculate the data points, and I get that. How we decide to incorporate it into, all the final decisions is another discussion.
I'll send you that. I'm gonna switch. Tell me if you see another sheet. Do you see a different sheet now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So we might, as well share this with you as well, so you can consider. So if we take the previous sheet's percentage net excess. So in other words, we can work it off of that number, or we can work it off of this number, but 6 tons that the village picked up, 0.74 tons that the town picked up. The net is 5.35. Well, there you go. It was already done for me. And as a percentage of the total tonnage picked up that week, not including Maxwell Avenue, it's 3.8%. So if we start with that number, here's the adjustment, 3.81%. I showed you guys this this chart previously, but I've now changed it to use that number. Before, I had calculated a number that was higher because I was using some data from the 2008 study. So these are just annual budgets for the last 5 years. This is what the allocations in those years were. These are the actual payments that we each made into that year. This one in yellow is highlighted yellow because it's the outlier. We did not put in 47%. That's the 40% that the village contributed to last year's budget. Over on the right-hand side is what I would call the corrected side. So if we took whatever the allocation was thought to have been that year, and we subtract from it the 3.81%, this is what the allocation should have been had we actually done correctly and given the village the trash collected within its boundaries and the town the trash collected within its boundaries. Then these are the payments that should have been made by each of us.
Why is there a different allocation?
Because
we had a different allocation ourselves, I see.
Yeah. We have to correct it for the fact that each year we're taking the town's tonnage off ours and putting it on yours, and that's net. So, we've already taken care of the fact that the town has some village tonnage as well. So these are the payments that the town and the village should have been making those 5 years. This is the village's over under and the town's over under. And you can see that in 2020, we were both under in terms of underfunding the commission. We overfunded the commission for 4 years at the same level that the town underfunded the commission, obviously, because we were paying for town trash. So that makes a lot of sense. In 2020, the numbers get skewed a little differently because we only paid 40% in. So we were this much under what we would have paid if we had the correct allocation of 43.2%. And this is what the town was under paid for the commission. And you get to those final numbers there. And then just a way to look at, so if you look at this baseline, the total for 16 through 19, the village is owed $535,000 for overpayments that we've made during those 4 years to the commission. Likewise, the town owes the commission, and then the commission owes the village the same amount of money, which makes a lot of sense because they underfunded because we overfunded. But if we just do then look at like where we are and where we would go ahead and how we can figure this out, this is just a suggestion for calculating how we deal with fund balance and how we move things forward for the 2021 budget. Fund balance at the end of 2019 was that. These are the actual amounts that were paid in by the town and the village. This was other revenue received. These were expenses. The fund balance, therefore, at the end of that year, 2020, would have been 424. If you take what the town owes from 2020 and what the village owes from 2020, the fund balance goes up. Then we can just break it down by 4753 and distribute it out. What that really means is that net, the town gets 221,000 from the fund balance, and the village gets 202,909 from the fund balance. And you see that the net fund balance, the end of 2020, after we've dispersed, is the same as what we have up here. So that is a way for us to equitably disperse the existing fund balance. There's still then the issue of the fact that, and that corrects for the 2020. It still doesn't handle the fact that the commission owes the village of Larchmont $535,000. And how will that be, how will that be handled? So that's a lot to look at. So maybe I'll send it to you, and then I would have sent it, but I finished working on this at like 10 o'clock last night. So are there any questions at this point? Do you want me to explain where any of these numbers come from? Or is it
I'd have to look.
self-explanatory?
I have to go back and see if it can match up, but I'm sure, you know.
Yeah, I understand these numbers also. I think the question is more of, this is the way we accepted and did business all this time. And, is it really a question of owing the village this amount of money for the practice we did for 4 years?
There was, at some point, the commission understood that there was a correction that needed to be made for this circumstance. And, as we discussed before, it fell off. And the allocation method by tonnage, which the town has always stridently held to, if we're going to use it, should have been applied correctly. The idea that the village was picking up almost 4% every year for, I don't know, 20 years, 25 years. And I'm sure that number changed, over time a little bit, but that's an awful lot of tonnage that we were allocated for, when the law clearly says that it's supposed to be within our boundaries. The fact that it happened and that it was accepted goes to, not, on my part, certainly not understanding the magnitude of the difference between what we were picking up for the town and what the town was picking up for us. Was never really mentioned that way. And the oversight of how the allocations were done is generally out of our hands, Nancy. I mean, we're presented with a sheet of numbers and a calculation that looks right because we get bulk numbers. And
I understand. I totally understand. I'm just not sure at this point, how you adjust for that, over all this time. It is.
I'm only looking back at 4 years, really. Yeah. I'm looking at 16 through 19. I mean, if you want to, theoretically, you know, and I think that's a fair number to look back at. When we know this is a much broader, in time, much broader issue. And the idea that we're looking at making this change, and that means we're going to be, you know, distributing the surplus.
Yeah.
You know, if we've been overpaying to the tune of $130,000 every year, at the very least, we have to look at how that surplus gets distributed, the very least.
Okay, and has your board been discussing these numbers?
I didn't have this complete sheet done. As I said, this is from last night. I have discussed with them the sheet that I worked up before that basically just showed the effect of this, you know, I don't know how we want to refer to it, the misapportionment of tonnage, the effect that had. So, you know, it's large. You know, it's hard for me to say we can that this should just be water under the bridge when it's a real financial impact. Just looking back a couple of years is, I think, a fairly reasonable approach.
Okay, and when did we really start to question the tonnage in this route in 2? Was it really just this past year that we've been looking at it?
We started, well, I don't know what you mean by questioning the tonnage in this route. We questioned using tonnage, you know, a year and a half or more back.
You actually were looking at a different allocation. You were looking at personnel and everything else. You weren't, it's, you know, we sort of ended up back at tonnage, but
Well,
you really questioned the allocation of expenses based on personnel.
so I stand by my belief that the methodology that was set for the commission was faulty, but given that that's the methodology that we've been using and it's the methodology that we are going forward with through our final year as a commission, I mean, you know, we are where we are. That's how we allocate our costs. If we're going to allocate costs based on tonnage, which we have been and we are, then the tonnage needs to be correct.
Well, if we're actually, maybe if we're going to correct the tonnage, maybe we should not dissolve the commission. Maybe what we should do is, now we know how to do the calculation, leave the commission in place and do the calculation the way it's been done for this analysis.
Well, that's a whole nother conversation, but we're going to, at the end of that, we're going to get back to allocation by tonnage.
Right.
Yeah, but we're back at square one. We're back where we were a year and a half ago.
Well, no, we're not. I mean,
because
we've allocated the tonnage.
We've allocated the tonnage correctly. This corrects for the allocation of tonnage. This just basically says that if we've been using tonnage to allocate costs all these years, We did it last year. We're planning to do it for 2021. Let's at least have the allocation be correct, because for 20-something years, the village has subsidized town trash costs to their residents by somewhere in the range of 3.8%. So we should at least acknowledge that there was a mistake in how the allocation itself was done, because nobody took into account the fact that the village had lots of town trash in its trucks. And we're supposed to be allocating by the tonnage collected within each municipal boundary.
No, I agree. I understand that.
So, right.
With the correction.
But going beyond, I don't think there's any interest in continuing a commission that allocates by tonnage. If you didn't want to go into an expanded district, it wouldn't be status quo commission. That's what I'm getting at.
Well, I mean, that's a
Because
policy.
then we'd have to go back, Steve, at that point, we'd have to go back to what I suggested in September of 2019, which is we have a thorough financial analysis done and try to figure out how the costs should be most fairly apportioned.
I agree. That would, I think
by
that you would,
use, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's,
because I think then you'd need to take into account everything that happens at Maxwell Avenue and everything that happens, in the town office and the cost of all of it in a much more detailed.
Yeah, I'm telling you that the phone calls you get don't equate to $130,000 a year.
I'm not saying they do.
And right, but like, again, yeah, you would look at everything. If you were doing that, you would look at everything. I'll agree with you on that. But as a matter of correction, again, those employees are paid through the townwide budget. So village residents already pay their salary, whether they pay it through the townwide tax or they pay it through the sanitation line, and the village tax is irrelevant.
Well, one might argue that the village of Mamaroneck should not be paying for that, for them to answer sanitation calls. So we'd have to allocate. I'm saying if you want to really drill down, we'd say, well, all right, there needs to be a credit to address the village of Mamaroneck, and that would have to come from sanitation.
There's a lot that would have to be looked at. It would be a very large analysis, right?
Yeah.
Right. But we chose not to do that. We chose instead to go down this path towards an expanded garbage district. And this is our final year. We're dispersing fund balance. I start looking at that to make sure, that, okay, let me just kick the tires on these numbers. And that's when I look back at emails, I look through my file, and I realize this situation, which it's a magnitude that I couldn't ignore. And I think that as town representatives representing both unincorporated residents and village residents, you would have to agree that there needs to be some level of acknowledgement and correction.
Or
That's what I want to think about.
And suggest that, in your 22-23 budget, you will take about $1.3 million out of that budget because the town is going to assume that burden. And maybe that's a way to look at it in terms of what the advantage will be to the village of Larchmont if indeed we follow the district alternative, and the town will, increase its budget by, let's say, roughly $3.7 million. And, that doesn't include, whatever debt expenses are going to accrue when we have to start to replace all the trucks.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's not like village residents aren't going to pay that through their tax, right?
No,
They're going to pay for all of that.
you're losing the apportionment and you're losing the debt. I mean, it's a huge advantage. If you think about it financially.
Well, you're looking at it from the standpoint of the village budget. I'm looking at it from the standpoint of the village resident.
Well, the village resident actually ends up with in terms of sanitation, probably a significant tax deduction. Because now the assessed valuation will be much larger. It'll be that roughly $7.2 million, I think it is, right?
Right, which I think basically just proves the point that sanitation by tonnage is really doesn't represent the cost of running a garbage collection agency.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to ever agree with that, especially if you look at how they. I mean, I think if we find another way and the town and the village continue to work together, that's fine. But I do think tonnage is the way. It's the way joint agencies do it, unless they use the ad valorem tax. And I mean, look, there was a reason that they deferred parts of Route 1 to Route 4 because the tonnage was overwhelming. I mean, heck, just think of when we used to pick up the clubs and we were picking up 22 containers per club in the summer months and probably 10 or 11 per club in the winter months. I mean, you know, there's a lot that hasn't been calculated into this either. I mean, the town was paying 50, whatever its percentage was of all that collection as well. I mean, there's no question there's a density.
I mean, not if because we did it by tonnage. The tonnage from the clubs in the village went to the village side and the clubs in the town went to the town side. I mean, that's why that whole methodology just doesn't really make sense, but fine. That's how it was agreed. That's how it's been done. That's how these payments have been made. It should at least have been correct. And I think we all seem to agree that it should have been, it should have been done correctly, and it wasn't. I don't want this necessarily to be the item that derails the expanded garbage district. But I don't see moving to an expanded garbage district seems like, yes, it's a better way to go forward. It's a better way to provide the service, I think. And it comes to a representative cost, a more representative cost. But none of that changes how we handle this look back and this incorrect allocation.
So that's what I feel like I need to sit with a little bit to figure that out, to think about it, to just let it sit and let it, I gotta ruminate on it a little. But I obviously understand the numbers. I see what you're saying. I want to think about the whole district, the history, and how it all pieces together. And I definitely understand that you want to be compensated in some way for it. I just don't think I could make a decision right now of how to do that.
No.
All right, you're gonna send this to us, Lorraine?
Yeah. Should I take these other calculations off the bottom or just leave them in there?
Leave them on. I think,
I think it would be helpful to leave them on too.
yeah.
Okay. So hang on, let me see if when I stop sharing, if it saved it that way.
Let's see if we're all still here.
Yeah. All right.
I guess we do get more than an hour.
We still streaming?
Yeah, well, I think. Sham, are we still streaming?
Did
Wow.
not realize it was more than an hour.
I've been on
No, they
Zooms
didn't notice.
recently where they shut off, and you're just done, but then you redo it and it comes back. I understand we're talking about streaming on YouTube instead of just Zooming.
Okay. I sent it to you both.
Okay.
All right. Wednesday night, our public hearing is only about curbside.
Yeah.
And you got,
We end up booking it on Inauguration Day.
I don't know, was the date of our, of our board meeting.
We're gonna watch the virtual dance parties.
Well, inauguration's at 10 in the morning, isn't it?
I know, so the festivities, the balls.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a little different.
I think so. Yeah.
When I realized it, at first I was worried and upset too, and then I realized, the inauguration itself is at 10.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but Wednesday night, we're set to go through our law.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And we have a town work session tomorrow night. Do you think we could talk about this also, Steve? I'm wondering if we can. I've got a,
I want to look at the numbers. Tomorrow's kind of I think tomorrow's a nutty day. It may not be.
Certainly you want to take the time to feel that you have comfort with the numbers before
right,
you,
and to be able to talk about them fluently.
Yeah.
Right, and confidently. So maybe we might not.
May have to schedule a work session for the following week.
A separate one. I think that's not a bad idea because it's a complicated enough issue and the numbers are complicated enough. I think to one feel comfortable with them would take some time.
All right, so let me just go back over. We can discuss it Wednesday night as well, but assuming that both boards adopt the local law, which is what is anticipated, I know it's always effective with the filing of the law with the Secretary of State, but we have the town has the current state of emergency that's mandating curbside collection. And I guess that's sort of just bled. You're not in a state of emergency, right, Lorraine?
Yes, we are.
All right, so it's bled. So we're consistent that way.
Mm-hmm.
Should I assume that I will prepare the exemption issue? I'm gonna prepare the exemption application and do all of that and start to
I
take.
think so.
Right, but again, we need whatever's the application needs to have a policy that directs it, or the other way. I mean, there are two pieces to it, right? There's a policy and the application that.
Well, the policy that we discussed is if you're over 70.
Yeah, we just want that in writing, and we should vote on it.
You want to vote on that? You want to vote on that after the law, obviously. I guess that's probably the right way to do it. If you decide on if in theory
Yeah,
the current pass, you wouldn't need the policy. So
right.
one before the other. And then I'll prepare, because I believe I sent you both the policies, correct? Are you okay with the policy? I'll prepare an application form, but are you okay with the policies themselves?
Hold on. I'm just going to pull it up, Steve.
Yeah, that's fine. Oh, I have that too if you want me to do it. The bottom line is that, and we're obviously not going to knock on doors, but someone's going to certify that there's no one in the house that can bring the garbage to the curb. And that is the basis for both the
I don't have a recent policy from you.
all right, hold on. Give me a second. Let me go in and see what I can find. And I'm not going to find it that way. All right, hang on just a minute. Oh boy. This sounds complicated.
Sham, I'm having trouble finding my documents on my laptop. It's
Oh,
not-
I have one that goes back to December 14th.
Hold on, that may be the one. Hold on just a minute, Lorraine.
Yeah,
What date was that?
December 14. Yeah, December 14. It was an email along with okay.
Yeah, I think that's it because the date of the document is.
It's 12/14.
Yeah, hold on.
Yeah. Okay. Are you gonna put it up?
Yeah, I'm gonna put it up.
Okay.
Let me close some things. And put it so, screen. There we go. Do you see it?
Yep.
Yeah.
This is the one. This is the most recent one, Lorraine.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Does this generally look okay?
Yes, except the one for the exemptions for the handicapped. I don't think that first sentence works.
Yeah, there's a word missing or something.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
And that they are
and be
substantially.
substantially or
Yes. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's
yeah, something like that.
okay. All right. All right. I have to.
I think that seems fine. That's straightforward.
Right. Right.
Do you want Lorraine? Did you ever send this to your board? I don't think we sent it to the town board.
I did not. And so
Did we send it to the boards so that it's part of the discussion? It's up to both of you.
I can send it to my board, and if we want to discuss it after the law at the hearing Wednesday, we can do that. That'd be best.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll just change that word on the version I have. R.
I changed it, didn't we? Oh no! You want me to well, you can either change it on yours. I've changed it on mine here, and then I can.
I'll change it on mine. No issue, and then I'll circulate that.
All right.
Wait, are you want to discuss this on Wednesday night? Because I thought that these were, that the law was what we were doing only, and that these provisions, policies, concurrent with the law would be created and the Sanitation Commission rather than the.
Well, it is. it's the commission that has to approve them because it's the policy of the commission, but we
Right.
wouldn't want to approve them without the two boards being aware of what they are and maybe having some
But
feedback.
you want to discuss it Wednesday night? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, not in a public hearing, just after we're finished with the law,
Oh, okay.
we can just talk through and see if anybody has an edit that, you know, we think we should make.
Okay,
And
that's
then
what I wanted to know, whether it was.
And
in
we
the
can
public
adopt the policy at our next commission meeting.
hearing. Okay,
Yeah,
but not within the public hearing.
right, no.
Okay, then, all right.
Just a quick side note, you know, we talked about the cans themselves and the advantages of them. We're actually going to, their services are very different, but the Village of Portchester is going to do a village-wide distribution of cans, so that everyone has a uniform can for collection. And we're going to, they buy their cans from the same company we do, and they're going to do this distribution in February. We're just going to run up and take a look at how they do it. They're evidently going to offer a very, very discounted price on the can, and then they actually will do the distribution for you, for the community. So just so we have the knowledge in our file cabinet, so to speak.
Okay.
We're going to watch what they do, but that then opens the door for, you know, some other changes if we want to make them.
Okay, so Steve, I think we would have to give this out on tomorrow night at our work session and say that we are going to discuss it after the public hearing on Wednesday night.
Yeah, I mean, if you want, Nancy, I was going
We
to.
could just add it to the agenda. Really.
Yeah, well, what I was going to do is I'll just distribute it before I leave to go home today, so that they have the document. Not that there's much to look at, and then they'll have it for tomorrow night, and then for discussion Wednesday night. Is that okay?
Yes, but we put it on the agenda for Wednesday night. Is that right? For just.
Yeah, we'll put it on the agenda
I guess-
after the public hearing. You want to do it after the public hearing because the village board will be on the
Right, together. Okay,
Yeah,
okay. 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 So we're going to need a little more time then on the numbers, and we will maybe set up a meeting for next week.
yep.
I don't. The only other thing I may have for if we meet next week is we're going to start interviewing. We have some personnel matters within the commission for a deputy foreman. I have been, and I have to present it to the two of you for review, but I think the obvious choice, and I don't have to do this in executive session, for the foreman's position, because Clarence is going to retire, is Frank Giordano. And what I wanted to do was, so I've been negotiating with him an employment agreement. He would not be in the union anymore. He'd be a non-union employee, but I want to share that with you for approval. So we would have three openings. We have the foreman, the deputy foreman, and that position's been posted and people are signing up. That's a union position. And then we will have an opening for a motor equipment operator, because presumably whoever takes on deputy foreman will leave a vacancy for a route driver. Although the deputy foreman must have a tractor trailer license, or a Class A license, because they often take the trailers either to Portchester or to Yonkers.
Okay, so should we set up a date for a meeting, or should we wait till after we have I think we should wait till after we set up our special work session.
Okay.
Okay?
That's fine.
Okay. Okay. Anything else? Happy MLK Day.
Happy.
Gonna take the rest of the day off.
Yeah. All right, if there's nothing else, then I just need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Steve, I have to come over and get my packet.
Okay, it's on your desk.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
All right, bye,
Bye.
guys. Bye.
Thanks.
I'm gonna end the
Thank
live
you.
stream now.
Thank you, Shan, for your help.